Welcome to Vision to Venture. I'm Eddie, and I'm here to uncover the realities of scaling and building a tech startup. Each week, I speak to leaders within the tech space with their insights and advice on how to found, fund, and frame a tech startup. So make sure to follow and subscribe to never miss an episode. Hi, welcome to Vision to Venture. Today I am joined by Enoch Kan, the lead machine learning engineer over at Kognitiv. Kognitiv specializes in business solutions, helping businesses to optimize operations, enhance customer experience, and improve profitability. Welcome, Enoch.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining.
Thanks
Finally.
for having me here, Eddie. Yeah, I'm so glad to be here. Such a nice room and setup and all that.
I'm really happy to have you, and it's great to have you on for season 3 when we have introduced videos to the podcast. It's getting bigger. It's getting better.
Everybody's going to see our faces.
They are. I know. I'm scared about that too. Just to start with, do you want to just tell us a little bit more about what Kognitiv do?
Sure, yeah. So at Kognitiv, traditionally Kognitiv is a company that does a lot of loyalty program management. So they manage loyalty programs for really big clients. But right now we're trying to rebrand ourselves as a marketing SaaS company. So we're developing a suite of marketing tools powered by artificial intelligence and machine learning to help companies to understand their customers better.
Nice. And obviously I mentioned you're the lead machine learning engineer. Must be a pretty heavy role. What does that entail? What does it look like to be a lead machine learning engineer at Kognitiv?
I think sometimes, first of all, I just want to say, I think everybody at our company have a pretty heavy role. Everybody's doing a lot of different things. And being the lead ML engineer, I think my primary focus at the company right now is to come up with an ML ops framework for the company, because we have a very, very good team of data scientists and also analysts, and they have come up with some really excellent algorithms. Yeah. However, how do we actually bring those algorithms and turn them into something that's usable, right? That customers will be able to use. So here's where I come in, and I engineered the solution to be a more scalable one, and we can bring it to some of our products and make it happen for the customers.
Okay, amazing. And obviously you started out your journey in tech as a software engineer, and then you've gone into this lead machine learning engineer position. So I just wanted to sort of find out what enhanced you to make this transition, and why did you make this sort of transition from software into machine learning?
Well, I think it's kind of funny because when I think about this question, I immediately think of CSS. I started off as a web developer, a full stack developer doing web development, and I spent probably a few months trying to center a div and design a website. Back then it was way more painful than now, because now you can just chat GPT the whole thing. But that's when it really prompted me to rethink my career. I was like, well, I like software dev. It pays well. It's fun. It's a lot of problem solving. But am I really making an impact, right? I think nowadays it's so easy to make a website. So should I move on to something that's I find more fun and makes a bigger impact? And that's when I think back to in college. I studied in the U.S. and I really wanted to go to medical school there. And I actually shadowed a neurosurgeon, thinking that I would become a neurosurgeon someday. Yeah. And I remember having this really interesting conversation with the neurosurgeon, and he basically was like, why are you trying to go to medical school, Enoch? We're going to replace by robots in 10 years. And I think by robots, he meant AI at that time.
Of course, yeah.
I didn't really pay too much attention to it, but I was like, okay, well, maybe I need to rethink my career. And then in year 3, I took some programming courses and I just fell in love with it. It just makes my life so much easier, and it's fun. Everybody's doing it, and eventually, I think based on this original thought that I had, right? I think that hey, if I can combine AI and medicine, then that would be a really good career transition into making an impact. Right, so that's how I got into AI, and to be honest, I think being the lead, right? I think a lot of people have different kinds of title, but what I really feel empowered is making a difference in different companies.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, obviously, you saying you wanted to be a lead, like a neurosurgeon and things like that.
Yeah.
The way that tech is going, you can work on those sorts of things, and you can still do neurosurgery. You're just going to be on the tech behind it.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Or if
'cause-
they let me go to medical school and take the medical exam with ChatGPT, then I can pass medical school in like a couple years.
Like literally less than a couple of months
Couple
with
of months,
ChatGPT.
exactly.
I could be a neurosurgeon with ChatGPT.
But then who would be the doctor, right?
Well, there is that, exactly. This episode is sponsored by DS Group. DS Group help connect machine learning and software engineering talent with groundbreaking opportunities in the field of AI. So whether you're a company searching for exceptional tech talent or an individual seeking that perfect role, DS Group is your go-to solution. Thanks to DS Group for sponsoring Vision to Venture. And just to talk about your software engineering skills, obviously you originally gained them, you've gone into machine learning. How would you say, how did the software engineering skills complement as well as differ to like your role as a machine learning engineer?
Yeah, actually, I think there are a lot of overlapping parts. Obviously, with everything is always a Venn diagram, right, or multiple Venn diagrams. With software engineering, I think with the software engineering best practices, right, what is good quality of code? How do you make this code deployable, right, or scalable? I think a lot of the system design is coming into play now that AI makes it so much easier to write basic code. How do you prompt the AI to give you something that's useful, or ask the AI about how to design a system? I think those are knowledges that I still use as a machine learning engineer. What it differs is I think software dev is a very high overarching type of role. I would say even machine learning engineer has a lot of qualities of software engineering, but we're more data focused. So, we focus more on how to process the data, turn it into something that's usable for machine learning algorithms.
Yeah.
And, I think just turning algorithms into something that makes an impact, right? So a lot of times you'll see data scientists or analysts, they write really, really good algorithms, but if you run it through a data set of like, a billion or a trillion rows, right, it definitely will break because it's not written in a way that it can handle a large loads of data.
Of course, yeah.
This is where I think ML engineering comes into place, or even some software engineers are really good at that as well. But I would say software engineering plus data engineering, plus a little bit of data science knowledge is ML engineering.
It does all cross over though, doesn't it? Because obviously even just like when it comes down to recruitment and hiring for machine learning engineers, a lot of these companies out there, they do ask for a background in software engineering because they want those skills of the software engineering because it's all implemented, especially when it comes to ML ops as well. I feel like that's a big part of it as well because it's basically like 5 different roles in one. It's just all mashed together, and like you said about the Venn diagram, it's so right, because they do just cross over so much so that you do just need all of these different skills from these different areas of the tech world.
Exactly.
So I guess it's good to have that sort of that software engineering background and have those best practices of that to bring into your role as a machine learning engineer.
Well, I think the reason why I decided to switch and focus more on ML ops is because I think it's so easy for us to, code models nowadays.
MLOps is sticking around.
It's sticking around, and if you think about companies like OpenAI, right?
Yeah.
A couple days ago, ChatGPT went down because with the growing popularity, everybody's using it. But if everybody uses it, then how do you design systems that can handle that kind of load, right? Those are some important questions that people still need to figure out. If you go on Google and search, LLM ops, I think there are very, very few resources that you can find at the moment.
But that's an area that's growing exponentially, isn't it?
For sure.
It's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. More companies are seeking people that have those experience and skills in LLMs.
Yeah.
That it's just blowing up.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
I feel like that alongside ML ops is just the direction that the tech world is going at the moment.
For sure. And I think having a very high understanding of the architecture of how something works end to end is very important.
Absolutely.
In my current job, in my previous job, I think the focus has always been, from the beginning when you get the data, right, transform it into features, present it to the algorithm, like run it through the algorithms, and then output, right? How do you show the output to clients, for example? Knowing that and being able to design those systems, I think that's going to be the future of engineering because, with AI, a lot of the basic, junior dev roles are getting replaced. So having that sort of higher understanding will really help you in your career, I think.
Of course, absolutely. No, I completely agree. And just wanted to, so yeah, just moving on to the work that you guys are obviously doing over at Kognitiv.
Yeah.
How do you guys ensure that technical objectives of your machine learning projects align with like the commercial goals and obviously the objectives of Kognitiv as well as your clients?
Yeah, I think I'm very privileged to work under the product team.
Yeah.
Which I think traditionally in a lot of companies there is a mismatch between engineering and product and business whatsoever, and they need people to bridge that gap. And those people are the very valuable product managers, technical product managers. But I'm very privileged to work under the product team in that we have a very clear guidance of, hey, this is what we're building, right? And we also obviously have technical expertise, like myself and a lot of other people on our team as well, that know what we're building and how to bridge the technical objective with the commercial objective. And I think one of the things I find very useful is obviously, speaking with your manager, right? Because they know the bigger picture, but also having managers that are really, really technical in their past experiences. Because one of the things I struggle with before is to bring up technical concepts with my superiors, because as soon as I bring something up, it's very hard for me to explain it to them. But with managers that are slightly more technical oriented, they at the very least will understand what you mean or try to understand it. But again, I think in the vast world of business, right, you will have managers that are really brilliant, but they're not technically oriented. So that's why I think it's also equally important to learn and have the skill of translating technical objectives into something that business people can understand. I think that's something I'm trying to grasp.
You need you need the both sides of it, don't you, for it to all to work. You need the people with the business mentality and the business minds, and then the technical mentality and technical minds. Bring them together, and then you've got a business, basically, haven't you? But you need those to ensure that everything's being done smoothly. It's all running smoothly. It's all being done at the right time. It's like a dance, isn't it? You're working together.
Definitely, and I think actually Kognitiv is quite good at this. Like we have meetings, alignment meetings, that we just keep aligning with. Hey guys, this is what's happening. Yeah. This is what we need to build in the next month or two, or in 6 months. So keep in mind with this objective, please prioritize your technical work. And I find that very, very helpful, because a lot of times, like not even just in my current company, but in like other startups or even in bigger companies, there's a lack of clear direction. And with with Gen AI and so many things popping up every day, right? The world is constantly changing. And having that clear signal will really help us to build as engineers.
Amazing. Yeah, no, it's so true. It's so true. And it does sound like the works that you guys are doing over at Kognitiv, it's heading in the right direction, isn't it? And can you just sort of provide insights into like the ethical considerations and discussions that arise in your machine learning projects?
Yeah, well, I think there are quite a lot, and it's not just specific to my ML projects. I think I've had a lot of discussions with others on this topic as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Obviously, at my last company, we're building, smart sockets and IoT solutions. And I remember going to a conference and, being asked the question of, you're gathering sensor information. How do I make sure this information is not being used to do other things, right? To track other activities. Yeah. I think that's a very fair question, right? One way to tackle that is the transparency of what we're doing with the data, and having that direct line of communication with the customers or whoever the stakeholders are. Make sure they understand how their data is being used. I think that's very, very important. And I think there has been quite a shift to finding the right ML algorithms, or finding the best ML algorithms to produce results too. Now we have really good algorithms, but how do we make sure the customer know what their data is being used to do, right? Like, are their data being used to train a certain model? So I think there has been a clear shift into explainability in AI, and that's something I'm trying to bring to Kognitiv as well eventually. is to enable our customers, enable other stakeholders in the company to see where the data is, how we're using the data, and how it relates to the outputs that we produce from our ML models.
Okay, amazing. And when it comes to like measuring the ROI of machine learning projects at Kognitiv, what KPIs do you use to evaluate their success?
Yeah, I think funny thing is that I recently had conversations about KPIs with other people as well, but I think KPI is always a scary word. What it really means is the effectiveness, right? How much work you're putting into versus how much you're getting back. So
absolutely.
The most immediate thing I can think of is what the cost of your inference or the cost of your training versus how quick you can bring out a model to serve for a client, right? So here's a model from a data scientist. How do you turn it into something that's working? That's also a metric per se that you can track. Mm-hmm. I think obviously there is the scalability of the models, right? Right now, this model can only handle this amount of rows versus, in a month's time, it will be able to handle like billions of rows.
Yeah.
Those are all metrics that we can track. Right now we're, sort of building custom dashboard solutions, but I think there are really, really good methodologies out there that we can use to track KPIs in machine learning.
Yeah, and obviously it's always good to like obviously track the statistics of things, because then like obviously where things are going, what's working, what's not working, and it's just a way to understand everything that you're obviously doing as a business. Yeah. To know where things are heading and how much of things need to be done in those sorts of areas, isn't it? But I mean KPIs work for all areas of business and all areas in all industries.
Exactly.
It's just, and it's like you said, it's like it's not something to be scared of, but it's just something that it's there. It's there. And they're always going to be there to stay, aren't they?
Exactly, and I think as an engineer, right, when I first started off as an engineer, these things matter less to me. I didn't really keep that in mind. Yeah. But as I progress in my career, and I'm still progressing, I think a lot of people that really, succeed in the top, they have a very, cost-effective mindset. And like you said, this is not just specific to ML. This is, all areas of business, right? Yeah. I think at my current position, and actually in other projects as well, right? I'm constantly being asked, is this the right tool for us to use, right? Does this bring us the most value? Or, do you want to use something proprietary, or do you want to use something that's open source? And these are not easy questions to ask. You just have to sometimes make a decision. And it's not, I feel like this is a better tool, but actually do evaluations and, do the cost-effective analysis, cost-benefit analysis. So I think ML KPIs are still widely talked about, and maybe somehow, someday, someone will come up with a really good solution to keep track of all these things in one place.
For sure.
I think that's where the value add will be.
Yeah, one day. And what strategies do you recommend for like leveraging academic achievements and honors in the field of machine learning when transitioning from education to industry?
I think, well, maybe we can first start talking about how I got out of academia, transition from academia into industry. I was a medical AI researcher. I'm still very much interested in medical AI. I did a lot of CT segmentation work, so trying to find where the organs are and estimate the radiation dose for each organ using medical imaging techniques with deep learning. Mm-hmm. But I feel like a lot of the methods that I wrote in papers and published and actually cited by others will never see the light of becoming a product because of various reasons. I think it's not a very scalable solution per se.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Also, I think that there will be heavy regulatory consequences when you try to bring that product to market. So I think a lot of the generative techniques in medical imaging is not being approved by FDA because you're you're actually using AI on patient safety, right?
Yeah,
So it
of
needs
course,
to be heavily
yeah.
evaluated.
Yeah.
So anyhow, so I decided to, hey, maybe I can just come out and work, right? Try to make an actual impact and save lives instead of just sitting behind my laptop, writing on a research paper that may not make an impact. What was really helpful was before I went back to grad school, I worked a year as a software engineer, as I mentioned. There, besides doing web development, I actually did a lot of cloud engineering.
Yeah.
And that was really what helped me because having that software engineering acumen, I had a lot of GitHub projects. So what I found useful, right, coming from an academic background into the industry, I turned a lot of my academic research code into a code base that could be used by many. Even though, like I said, right, it could never be turned into a product. But having good documentation, having good coding, best practices. I think people, when they go to your resume, they'll go to your GitHub and they'll see, oh, this is a person who's done research before. But look, they can write really good code as well. And that's really, really the key for you to land your first academic job when you're coming out of academia. And at that time, and I still stick to my decision, and I'm very glad I made that decision, is I actually rejected an offer to do a PhD in the States.
Oh, really?
It's a very fun research on hindsight. It's researching on, using AI to determine the progression of dementia in brain scans.
Oh, wow.
And for other mental health illnesses as well. But I think on hindsight, having that showcase of your programming skills is
Yeah.
key.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And would you say that, I mean, obviously you're more than happy with your decision to go into like industry and not stay in education?
Absolutely, because I think even if I do 5 years of PhD, I would still come out. And
It's
work
a
in
long
industry.
time.
It's a long time.
It's a really long time.
I'm old, and I would have been older.
Like, I just don't. Oh yeah, 5 years in a PhD.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
For sure.
I mean, obviously, yeah, it's incredible to have, and it's like you not only the title, but just the knowledge and the experience, and just doing a PhD. But it's a long time.
It's a long time, and also I think academia has a very different culture.
Yeah.
I think so. I'm from Hong Kong, and I know a lot of like Chinese sayings, right?
Yeah.
There's a saying of I think coming out and working in a company is equivalent of going to the University of Society. So you actually learn a lot of valuable lessons that you wouldn't learn in school otherwise.
Yeah.
Obviously, in academic, there's always politics involved.
Oh,
right?
of course.
Just like in a company.
There's politics in everything.
I think academia is just a totally different game, right? Like you need citations. It's about who you know. Don't get me wrong. Huge respect to all of the researchers.
Absolutely.
They drive innovation, right? But I'm just not really a big fan of that, and that's why I try to transition out.
That's completely fair enough. And how would you say extracurricular activities or like side projects have shaped your career in machine learning, and how can they benefit aspiring machine learning engineers?
For sure. I think having a lot of side projects will really help you early on in the career.
Okay.
As you progress in your career, is more about what you've made an impact at your job, right? But really having side projects in the beginning will demonstrate your interest. And I continue to do side projects, here and there. Actually, my partner and I are writing, a newsletter, as I've told you before. We have a Medium publication as well that we're curating. I think very early on in my career, I started writing on Medium about data science as well. So I was a very early writer towards data science.
Yeah.
This is all something, contrary to what a lot of people think, you can actually put that on your CV, put that on your LinkedIn.
Yeah, yeah.
What it really does is just showcases, you have a very, very huge interest in what you're doing.
Of course.
You don't treat it as just a job.
Of course.
Also, I would say a lot of my side activities are networking. I really like to network. So I'm very glad I met you, Eddie.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
think
Likewise.
going to a lot of sort of meetups, I mean, being in a city like London really enables me to meet so many talented people.
It's a big tech hub as well, isn't it?
Big tech hub. And it just really humbles you, right? Because, I mean, I never think I'm a really great person, but, after going to the meetups, you see like industry leaders. You see people building tremendous companies with very few resources. Obviously, like you hear about great technologies just coming out every month. I think it's very, very humbling experience, and it helps you grow a lot.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And like you say, it's like all of these different meetups. You never know who you're going to meet at these places, and you never know how those people are going to help you or just like help shape your career in the future. So obviously you've had a very good career. You've worked your way up to this lead machine learning engineer position. But would you say that there's anything that you either regret or you wish you'd done differently in your career and in your life leading up to where you are now?
Yeah, I think that's sort of a tough question.
I think 100%.
Because it's very easy to regret or think, oh, I should have done this better, right?
Yeah.
And actually throughout your career, not just myself, I think you will get challenged by a lot of people.
Yeah.
Even sometimes at a very personal level. Oh, you're not good at this, you're not good at that. But I think on hindsight, I don't regret anything because they're very shaping of who I am right now. The only thing I would say is maybe don't spend 5 years in college and an extra year and a half in masters.
I feel that.
I think here in the UK, you guys are lucky because university is 3 years, and then an extra year you can get a master's. But I think in the US it's very easy to switch majors. Okay. So believe it or not, I actually switched my major 7 times.
Oh my wow!
I wanted to become a psychologist at first, and then I discovered neuroscience, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll go to med school, and then I shadow a neurosurgeon. Oh, maybe I'll then study microbiology, and then biology, biochemistry, bioinformatics, statistics, and you can see wherever it's going.
I feel like it's nice that you have that chance to do that.
Going to university, right?
Yeah.
Academic achievement is one thing, but also I actually learned a lot outside of classes.
Absolutely.
Because I was in part of a lot of like student associations.
Yeah.
Doing internships whatsoever. Like I was saying earlier with the University of Society thing, right? You actually get to interact with a wide range of people, and this is very similar to working at a company or doing group projects. You observe people with different styles of working. So I think those are definitely beneficial and something that I learned from university that a textbook can't tell you about. But yeah, like you were saying, I think there is a flexibility, and I wish I just balance it a bit more, identify my interests sooner. But again, I didn't really regret that because in the end I went with biology, statistics, and computer science, which is exactly what you need for medical AI.
Yeah, exactly. Earlier on, you mentioned a newsletter.
Yeah.
Tell me a bit more about it. What are you planning on doing?
Yeah, I think the newsletter is a very good way to, again, showcase
Absolutely.
Interest in machine learning and AI because, both my partner and I believe in this trend, this ongoing trend. She's a content manager by training, and she's good at writing. I am, very knowledgeable of the tech. So we decided to come together and start a newsletter. And I think the newsletter is also complementary to our Medium publication as well. Okay. Like I was saying before, I publish on Medium quite regularly. And I just believe in, writing and letting other people know about the latest trends. Yeah, so the publication is called ML Practitioner.
Okay.
Funny thing is, sometimes you got to be very careful before you release something.
Yeah.
I learned it the hard way because the first time I spelled the ML Practitioner.
No.
And then I made a post about it, and everybody followed it, and I was like, oh no, this is the Practitioner. So what do I do now? I can't change the URL, and now I got to restart the whole thing.
Oh,
but with the newsletter, it's called cross-validated, sort of wordplay on cross-validation. Yeah. So I think the audience is people who are interested in AI, but also ML engineers, data scientists, and even eventually like tech executives who are interested in what other companies are doing. And who knows? I mean, I don't think we're doing a podcast anytime soon because like you were saying, right? It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But newsletter is a really good way to get an audience and communicate.
But yeah, no, that's amazing. I mean, yeah, if any of the listeners want to go and read that newsletter, it's there to read. And just to wrap up,
Yeah.
final question.
Yeah.
What would you say are the key skills and qualifications that you believe
Yeah.
are essential for any aspiring machine learning engineers to excel in this tricky field, an ever-growing field?
I think it's the desire to learn. That's number one, because that literally trumps everything.
Yeah.
I'm very privileged at my last position to have the experience to interview people.
Yeah.
Which is something I've never done before, and I think one of the very hard things to measure is their willingness to learn.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I would always take a person who on paper doesn't have as much experience as the other candidate, but demonstrates the ability to learn, because then I can throw 10 languages, 10 different frameworks at that person. I trust that they'll be able to pick it up in a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
If you just regurgitate information, if you just copy and paste without thinking much, that's really not as valuable. So I think that's the number one skill. Obviously, the second thing is to be opinionated, and this is something I really value at my current job. Is they really want individuals who are opinionated, that obviously I'm just repeating myself, but brings opinion to the team and say, hey guys, this is not fit for our team. Can we use something better? Because this really drives improvement. And the third thing, I think this is a very important thing, is the ability to communicate clearly.
Yeah.
I am still learning a lot in this area, I would say. But if you have an individual that's really, really good and skilled, technical, willing to learn, and communicates very perfectly, I think they will go really, really far.
Then they will excel.
Yes,
for sure. Amazing. Well, good luck to any aspiring ML engineers out there that are going to get into the field. There's some great advice from Enoch Kan. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Vision to Venture. If you're listening, make sure to give us a 5-star review. And if you're watching, like and subscribe to listen to more inspiring stories from leaders in the tech space.